Hey everybody, Justin Queen here with Fish Ohio Outfitters, and today we're tying up some flies for smallmouth bass. Alright, we're going to start today with a fly that has been really productive for me for the past 2 years. It is called a Big Bird. It is not my pattern. This is Tony Sandrone from NightmareMuskyFlies.com. He is the guy who came up with this, and I believe it's an evolution, really, of Blaine Chocolate's T-Bone. So let's get started. Let's talk about what we're going to use. I have some Partridge 2-aught Universal Predator hooks. I've got a 28 millimeter shank. I also got this from NightmareMuskyFlies.com. I've got some yellow body tubing that is a 1/4 inch. I have some flashy craft fur, again, NightmareMuskyFlies.com. And that's about it. Let's get started. I've got some 150 denier gel spun thread loaded up in the bobbin. And I'm just going to go ahead and dress the whole hook. Now, I cut this whole carpet down into strips that look like this, and they're just way easier to manage. So I'm actually just going to lay that down flat. And it's really important when you tie this fly that you start out thinner and then you build bulk as you move forward. So craft fur has this underfluff stuff in it, and you want to get rid of all of that. Before you tie this in. And we just want to strip as much of that out as possible. I only want the longest strands. And just the tail section, I'm going to tie in just like so, facing that way. And I'm going to cover up these butts and just work my way forward to lock that all in. And then I really want to reef down with some tension. And then I'm going to grab my super glue just to once again really reinforce that down. Now, something that I do, and I think Tony does as well, I actually don't have any UV resin here with me today. But to keep this tail from fouling, a little bit of Flex Hold UV resin works like a dream. I don't have any UV resin, so I'm just going to take a little bit of my super glue. I'm going to pull that tail straight back, and I'm just going to hold it for a minute and let that set. And what that's going to do is just add a little bit of rigidity right here at the rear of the hook and stop the tail from fouling around the hook. So we're going to walk that forward, clear all of our fluff out of the way. I'm going to reach in and grab another section of our craft fur, pull straight up. Get all of that under fur out. Except this time, we're going to tie it in reverse. And that's just going to let the material breathe a little easier. So just like reverse tying bucktail, hold that back. And then I'm going to build a thread dam right in front. And then I'm going to walk my thread back up to the front here. So you can see it starting to take shape. You just want each section as you move forward to be a little fuller than the last one. And then again, just for good measure, because you never know when a pike is going to come up and decide to eat your beautiful smallmouth fly, we're just going to tag that with a little bit of super glue. Grab my next section. Once again, just a little thicker than the previous. Pull out all my underfluff. If you have a comb, this is actually a lot easier. I forgot to bring a comb today, so. I'm just gonna wrap those butts and tie them down real tight. Fan my craft fur out. Once again, it's just like reverse tying bucktail. It's actually a lot easier. Bring my thread forward. And I'm just going to build a little cone, just like so. Put a whip finish in, 4 or 5 turns. Clip that free. Tag it with a little glue. And then we're going to feed our shank, our 28mm shank in. And bring that forward in the vise just like so. Now here is really where the magic of this fly takes shape. We're going to use some body tubing. And this is really important if you don't want to drive yourself crazy. I have 2 pieces of body tubing, yellow body tubing, cut to 1.5 inches, and 1 piece of body tubing cut to 1 3/4 inches. We're going to start with the 2 1.5 inch pieces, and then we're going to finish with the 1 3/4 inch. When you use body tubing, a couple of things that you need to know. First of all, you always want to take a lighter and singe the ends after you cut it free from the roll, because if you don't, it will completely unravel on you, and it'll really piss you off. So, singe each end, and that's just going to stop all of these individual fibers from just splaying out everywhere. So now we're going to cinch down on this. Be really careful, even though you're using 150 denier gel spun, the ends of these shanks are really sharp and they will cut your thread off in a hurry. I lay a pretty heavy thread base down, back and forth, back and forth. I think it's Mike Schmidt who talked about how this is like a Chinese finger trap. You tension this way, and then you tension this way, and the threads all lock together, and they stop it from unraveling on you. And then, just to be sure, I'm not shy with super glue, especially when it comes to predator flies. A lot of the rivers that I fish in for smallmouth have their fair share of a pike population that I don't particularly want to just hand my fly over to have them destroy it. So we're going to take our piece of body tubing that we just singed, We're going to push it over the head of that shank, and it's really important that you start as far back as you can. So we're going to go just put a little half hitch in there like so. Okay, now I'm going to take the tubing, it looks like I singed it a little too much. I'm just going to break those loose a little bit. And I'll actually just go ahead and pull the fly right out of the vise for this. And what we have to do here is fold it back on itself all the way. So just like so. And then I'm going to grab all my material and pull this back forward. And we're going to tie it right back in over top of where we tied it in originally. So right there is our tie-in. We're going to come right back over the top there. Let me gather my bobbin back up here. Oops. Forgot to clamp it down. And you want to do this with some tension for sure. But be careful not to pop your thread here. And then I'm just going to put a quick whip finish in. And we're going to cinch down, cut our thread, and you guessed it, glue, 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 glue. I know a lot of people say, oh, if you tie a fly right, you don't need glue, and you're right, you don't. But what if you didn't tie it just right? Do you really just want to have it come unraveled after you spent 20-30 minutes tying it? So we're going to follow that up by singeing one more piece, reattaching our thread, and this is just how I do it. This is how I found that it was just a lot easier for me. Throw in a half hitch, wind back up. Again, take it out of the vise. Oop. Now look, right there is the perfect example. I forgot to singe that. And you can see what happens. The whole thing came apart. So shame on me. We're just gonna take that out. And we're going to clip off another piece of body tubing that's the same length. Quick fix. Half hitch. Again, it gets hard sometimes to get this stuff to fold back. Just take your time, little by little. I promise it can be done. And it is aggravating sometimes. It can be really fiddly to try to get it just right. Just remember, you're not in a race. All right. Now, this is where our next section of craft fur comes from. Pinching our underfluff out. And here it really doesn't matter, because what's going to happen is we're going to take this piece and it's going to fold back over that piece. So we're forcing the craft fur to flare out and create a bigger profile over the front of the fly. So if you want to tie it in facing back, tie it in facing back. If you want to tie it in facing forward, be my guest. It really makes no difference at all. I'm going to do it the way that I'm used to doing it, and I just tie it in facing forward. I couldn't even really tell you why. I trim off a little bit of the butt ends, but I don't really get too concerned about that. And then we're just going to pull one more piece off, and that's going to tie in at the bottom. And for me, I find it's much easier to tie this in directly on top of the body tubing than it is to try to tie it onto the hook and then fit the body tubing over that. And that is the reason that we do it that way. That's the reason I do it that way. And we're gonna cinch down. And just rotate your vise around a little bit and make sure you're happy with how the material is spreading out, without binding up a bunch more. So once again, I'm just going to go in and tidy up those loose butt ends like so. And then we're going to put a whip finish in. Clip our thread, dab a little bit of glue, and just kind of jam it in there, and then push it back. And just like that, you can start to see how it just really builds tons of bulk, but with very, very little weight. It's a very light and castable fly. I cast these on 7 weights with no issue. I'm pretty sure I could cast one on even a 5 or a 6 weight. All right, so last section. Once again, this is our 1 3/4 inch section of body tubing. Throw in a half hitch just to keep that all sturdy. Tag with a little bit of glue real quick just to be safe. Last time around, pulling this out of the vise. Just easy does it, because you can pull your hand right back into that hook really easily. And you'll definitely see me struggle with this a little bit. It's really fiddly. But what you end up with when you're done is so worth it, because this fly is so noisy coming through the water. If you think you've got 3 sections of body tubing with all that craft fur trapped in between, it just makes a lot of noise. tension down. And we're going to tag it with just a little bit of super glue. Now for our last sections of craft fur. And I can't tell you how much easier it makes it cutting the craft fur down into straps like this. Just really, really helpful. Now this one, you want this to be your densest material tie-in here. The most amount of craft fur. Roll that fly over. Again, just make sure there's no seams. Pinch all my materials together. 2, 3. And we're gonna do one last whip finish. Cinch that down. Trim my butt ends just a little. Again, don't have to go crazy with this. It's all going to be covered up by the body tubing. And one last dab of glue. And we push this back, and if we did everything right, you're going to have a perfect taper on a nice bright yellow big bird. You can tie these in any color combination that your imagination can come up with. I commonly tie them in white, white with gray, chartreuse and pink, a little bit of everything. Your imagination is your limit. Tie some up, enjoy them. If you want to put eyes on these, feel free. I don't usually put eyes on mine. If that's something that you're into, great. When Tony ties these, he actually ties them with a strip of gold lateral scale down the side when he ties them in yellow. I had flashy craft fur, so I didn't even bother to put the lateral scale in. This is very much a guide fly for me. I can bust through several of these in very short order, and they are durable as all get out because all the tie downs are protected by body tubing. So that is a big bird, ladies and gentlemen. Tie some up, fish them. I think you'll really like it.